Well, you have heard that Iran has been fueling the insurgency in Iraq today. My next guest says you are looking at the proof on tape just back from Iraq with this exclusive video is Richard Miniter. Richard is the fellow at Hudson Institute, among many other illustrious titles. So you have the proof.
That's right. This video is up on pajamasmedia.com right now. You can watch it in its entirety. I interviewed Major Martin Weber, who's an expert in explosive ordnance disposal. He's been studying these kinds of weapons for more than a decade, and he says these are definitely from Iran based on their construction, on the kinds of materials used, and of course it does say made in Iran on some of them.
All right, so they do, really? That simple? All right, so some of the stuff we're looking at now, Richard, this is unequivocally Iranian stuff.
That's right. In fact, in the video you can hear me asking the Major that. That's an Iranian lot number. He's able to find the page in the Iranian arms catalog where that RPG is available. There's also 60 millimeter and 80 millimeter mortar shells that are available through the Iranian arms catalog, which we've captured. This is Major Weber here, a West Point graduate, someone, again, who's a real expert in this. There's no particular axe to grind. He's not speculating why these Iranian weapons are here.
Just stating that they're Iran's.
They're definitely Iran's and no one else's, and they're killing American troops and our allies.
All right, you heard what Ambassador Bolton was saying just a few seconds ago, that is reason enough for us to take a much more tougher tone and stance with Iran. Is there the appetite in this country to do that?
Well, is there the appetite in the White House? Certainly, you know, behind you in the Congress, I would say probably not. But it's time to join reality. Iran is actively involved in killing U.S. soldiers and civilians inside Iraq and inside Afghanistan. It's also offering safe haven to al-Qaeda. According to Iran's own state-run radio, some 500 al-Qaeda are resident in that country, including
so
bin Laden's son.
So that al-Qaeda is, by your recognition, active?
Active, yes. These are
and with Iranian backing?
With some degree of Iranian backing. Now, how much Iranian control is up for debate inside the intelligence community.
But Richard, now you have proof. Now you're providing for the American people something that's fairly unequivocal here. And yet, if you were to storm across the street right now to that building behind me, I dare say you'd get barely a peep.
That's right. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear the unhappy truth. The fact is, insurgencies without outside help always fail. There's only one instance in recorded history in which an insurgency succeeded without outside help, and that's 1804 in Haiti, Toussaint Louverture. Every other revolution, every other insurgency that has ever succeeded has had outside help.
All right,
so the question is, to defeat the insurgency, you have to defeat the outside help.
Okay, so let me take that one step further. Let's say we were to pull out of Iraq. Then is that essentially Iran expanded?
It very well could be. It could be a colony of Iran, or it could be a country like Lebanon, which is kept perpetually off balance, perpetually burning and dying, in order to, as a sign, for the U.S. to try to promote democracy in the region ever again.
As long as I've known you, Richard, you've been uncannily prescient about developments in this region of the world. Tell me what's next.
Oh, well, you know, if I had the crystal ball, I'd make a fortune. I will think, though, that we're going to have to take a tougher line. I think September is going to be a very cruel month for both people in Congress and for people in the field. Because when Petraeus comes back, and he's going to have some signs of success, but like all news, it's going to be mixed. There's going to be some failures. There are going to be some spectacular car bombs. And we're going to have to make hard decisions in this country. Do we give the surge another year to work, or do we lose patience and go home? And I think September is going to be the month in which Petraeus and the country's future, both Iraq's and ours, is decided.
All right, Richard Miniter, thank you very, very much.
What evidence is there that Iran arms militias that are killing American soldiers?
Well, the problem the administration's had is that they have not been able to come up with concrete evidence to back that charge. And this really goes back to, 2005, 2006, 2006 basically, when the administration and the U.S. military first began to talk about Iranian sources of weapons, the Iranians providing these weapons. But every time this charge would be made, they would have to back off and say, well, we don't really have any evidence. We just believe this. And then in 2007, they went very public with this charge, with this famous, now famous, briefing by 3 anonymous military briefers in Baghdad on February 11th, 2007. And in that briefing, again, they had to admit that it was circumstantial evidence. It was an inference that they were making. They really did not have the direct evidence to support it. What they argued was that we believe this because the EFPs, the explosively formed penetrators that were capable of penetrating U.S. armor, they said they could not be made in Iraq. Well, this is where the U.S. case really fell apart. What the argument was in February 2007 is that we do not have any evidence that these EFPs can be manufactured in Iraq, and we have no reason to believe they are. Well, in fact, they were being manufactured in Iraq. They had been manufactured in Iraq since 2004. The British knew that. The British intelligence knew that. They had found many bomb factories. They'd found cells making bombs to blow up, to penetrate armor from 2004 on. The U.S. military knew that. They were deliberately suppressing that information when they made that argument. And it proved impossible to suppress it because the U.S. Media began to report that they were finding bomb factories making these EFPs in Iraq. And so, in fact, what's happened since early 2007 is that the U.S. militaries had to walk back that argument and to admit that, in fact, EFPs have been manufactured in Iraq. Now, I reported in early 2007 that one of the British experts on this said most, if not all, of the EFPs are now being manufactured in Iraq. This was Michael Knights, a British private security consultant who was probably more knowledgeable about this than any other private individual.